Hey folks, it's Nate. You knew that. I had this strange idea for a video where I answer your questions, mainly because I see a lot of other YouTubers are doing the same thing right now, and I just thought it might be fun. So I asked you, do you want to hear me answer some of your questions? And some of you just immediately started asking me questions, and others simply said, yeah, let's see what this works out to be. I asked about a week ago if any of you had any questions for me, and I got a few. So I've got them on my phone here, and I'm just going to go through and answer them to the best of my ability. Now, these questions range from technical questions to just sort of more, not quite personal, but less technical and more, I don't know, how do I do these things sort of questions. We'll just jump right in here. First question is from Jason W. on Facebook. By the way, I like to respect people's privacy. I'm not going to use last names. If you're curious if you're the person that I'm talking about, just ask me. I'm not going to use your last names. So, Jason W. from Facebook. How did you talk your wife into letting you do so much with your Jeep? Asking for a friend. So, this is not an easy question to answer. But I did think about it a little bit before I started recording. I even thought about just having her help me record this particular question, but she's busy doing some stuff and I wanted to get this video knocked out. It's, there's no crazy secret here. I got my first Jeep when I was still dating her, my wife. I already had a 4x4 when I met her. There's an old S10 Blazer, which I've talked about once or twice on the channel before. So she already knew that this was a hobby of mine, and I got my first Jeep maybe 6 months into dating her, and that was 22 years ago. That's how long I've been doing this. That's how long she's aware that I've been sort of a Jeep fanatic. With how quickly I picked up and got really involved in Jeeping, I think she knew what she was getting, basically, is what I'm getting at when we got married. That all being said, it's not like I force her to let me continue my hobby. She understands that it's my hobby, and she understands that this channel is something that I enjoy doing. And because she's so cool about it, I make sure that I don't abuse that. And generally the way that works out is if she comes to me and says, hey, you know, there's a problem, you haven't been spending enough time with the family or whatever, it's probably because she's right. And I'm okay with admitting that she's right. So that's basically it. I don't spend a ton of money on the Jeep. As you know, I do a lot of low buck stuff. I do a lot of home fabricated stuff. That's really what makes this channel what it is. So there's really no like financial strain. On top of that, I just try to be responsible with what I'm doing and not make it a problem. So if you're looking for how do I get my wife to agree to be cooler with me having a Jeep, I don't know if I have an answer for you there. All I can say is don't let it be a problem, and it shouldn't be a problem. And to be honest, if it is a problem, if your wife can't respect the fact that you have a hobby, well, I'm not suited to answer that question. Okay, next is from another channel you guys might know, The Bearded Jeeper. He says, what's your dream Jeep? So it's Kyle from The Bearded Jeeper. I really thought a little about this one. I really, put some thought into this one because there are so many like dream builds. One of them would be to just deck this Jeep out. I want to get it up on tons and crazy lift and 40s and go do all the crazy awesome trails. That's a little unrealistic for me at the moment just because of the state that I'm currently in. I don't mean the location I'm in, but like just in general, the state of my life, I should say. I can't afford to have that style of Jeep, and I wouldn't be able to use it the way I want to because that requires a lot of other things like a trailer and a truck to tow it with and whatever, because the state location that I live in doesn't allow you to drive a Jeep that's crazy wide that extends past these fender flares on the road. So that's a problem. I don't know that I have a specific dream Jeep build that is, of the traditional sense. I can say that I've always wanted a Willys MB. That's like war era, or maybe just after war era. I think that's still war era Jeep, classic Jeep. They're the kind that have the really boxy sort of headlight area on the front end. Maybe I can find a picture and I'll superimpose it over the video here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I would love to get one of those. but not for the traditional reasons. Most people that want a Jeep like that would like, oh, I'm going to restore it and make it a show Jeep. What I would turn it into is a vehicle that I can just hop in and drive on the street, which means I'd probably put a more modern drivetrain into it if that's even possible. There could be space considerations that wouldn't work out there. And maybe put a softer suspension underneath it so I can just drive it up and down the road when I want to. Put some ease and seats in it and some modern safety equipment so that I can actually drive it without, killing myself. I think that would be an awesome Jeep. Sort of a resto mod, if you want to call it that. Maybe even just get the body and slap it on a YJ or something, right? I've seen people that have done things like that. That'd be a pretty cool thing. So yeah, there you go. There's my dream Jeep. Next question, and these are kind of ridiculous questions. They came from Nikki G. If any of you know Nikki G, well, you understand why he's asking these questions. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes, but no. If cows only eat grass, why isn't milk green? I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I can say that when you film milk on certain cameras, it looks blue. Maybe that's got something to do with it. And why does this room have padded walls? Well, you'll have to ask Wendy that one. Okay, so the next one is from Rubicon Robert from YouTube. He commented on the post I made on YouTube about this. And this is the first real technical question that I've got. I'm going to try to read this for you, and then I'm going to talk about a couple things related to this. I have a stock 2005 LJ Rubicon automatic. What a coincidence. Same as mine, except mine's not a Rubicon. I'm looking at either Currie 4-inch or going with a 3.5-inch Rock Krawler Long Arm suspension and running 35s. It's a daily driver. I usually do light to moderate trails. The Rock Krawler. The Rock Krawler lifts mentioned a Drop Pitman Arm. What can be used instead of a Drop Pitman Arm? I've read DPA's Drop Pitman Arms are bad for TJ's LJs. Thanks. Okay, so you didn't ask me which lift to use, but it's kind of related. So I'm going to try to do my best here. First of all, if anyone's not familiar with the Drop Pitman Arm, the Pitman Arm is the thing that connects to your steering box that goes from steering box drag link down to your passenger side knuckle. That's what makes the steering work. Well, knuckle, or in the case of stock TJ suspension, it goes down to sort of this Y-link that's all set up to make the steering work. Inverted Y, I think they call it. So what the Drop Pitman Arm does is the Pitman Arm has kind of a curve to it. There's a big top, small bottom, the curve that makes it drop down some. A Drop Pitman Arm drops further, okay? And what that does is it takes the angle of the drag link and lessens it some, which is kind of a good thing, right? I mean, obviously there's concerns there for clearance and whatnot, but you'll just have to accommodate for that kind of stuff. This is way up at the frame level that it drops it, so it's not as big of a deal. The thing is, steering and suspension are all about geometry. You've heard of death wobble, I'm sure. A Drop Pitman Arm, when it's not accompanied by a track bar drop as well, or panhard bar drop, what you end up with, the goal here is to keep your panhard bar and your drag link roughly parallel to each other, okay? If you drop your panhard bar and not your drag link, they're not, your Pitman Arm, they're not parallel anymore. If you drop your Pitman Arm and not your panhard bar, they're not parallel anymore. This being unparallel can sometimes lead to death wobble. It's just inoptimal. What you need to do is drop them both, or don't drop them both. So if you lift and you don't drop the panhard bar, track bar, then you should not put on a Drop Pitman Arm. If you put on a Drop Pitman Arm, then you should lower the track bar, panhard bar. So what I'm getting at here is the lift kit itself may include a drop bracket, or maybe a new bracket, a weld-on bracket or something, for your track bar. If that's the case, they're going to recommend that you put a Drop Pitman Arm on as well. Now, a Drop Pitman Arm may have other reasons, strength-wise and whatnot. I've never actually heard anyone say that you should not put a Drop Pitman Arm on a TJ. Maybe I'm wrong. If someone knows, please put that in the comments. And Robert, you can come check out the comments here and see if anybody has corrected me. But as I understand it, that would be the reason you'd want to put on Drop Pitman Arm. If you drop the track bar, panhard bar, you also should drop the Pitman Arm, because that keeps things lined up. Now, I will say that if you're choosing between a long arm or a short arm kit, you didn't say if the Currie was a long arm or not. If you're looking at a long arm versus a short arm, especially for a daily driver, I will always lean toward the long arm. Now, this is debated all over the place, but it's geometry, okay? Now, there's also another thing to consider, especially for LJ owners. There is a mid-arm kit, which a lot of LJ folks love. If you aren't already a member, go check out the group LJ Nation on Facebook. You have to actually apply for membership. You need to prove you own an LJ to be a member of this thing. A ton of LJ information in there that is not always the same as TJ information. But Savvy, I believe it is, makes a mid-arm kit, which is not quite a long arm, not quite a short arm. People in that group love it. I haven't seen it. I don't know exactly the science behind why it's better or worse than a long arm kit. Personally, I'm probably going to go long arm when I finally make that jump. But I'm definitely going to look harder at that Savvy mid-arm kit. So anyway, I rambled a bit there. I hope I answered your question. Okay, next. Michael H., also from YouTube. Hey, you just made the front bumper. You might remember I just did a project on the front bumper on the LJ. My question is, what is the most basic winch plate / bumper design you have seen for the Wrangler, TJ or JK? Okay, so the TJ is dirt simple. The frame on the front of the TJ, as you saw in my video if you watched it, it's just nice and flat. If you still have your stock sway bar in place, obviously that's sort of in the way, and two of the bolts that I used when I mounted my bumper would not be available to you unless you dismounted the sway bar and then remounted it on top of your bumper. But what a lot of plain old winch plates that are just winch plates do is they go on the top of the frame and they just bolt to the existing bolt holes where the factory bumper bolts, which is 4 bolts right at the end of the frame, right? And then they come back at an angle, or sometimes they go back and across the same way that I designed mine, where they incorporate the sway bar bolts as well. And then there's usually a bend or two in them for reinforcement, and then there's a plate on the front where your fair lead mounts. That's as simple as it gets for the TJ. And they're like $100, $150. You can literally take your stock bumper, take out those bolts, put the winch plate on top, put the bolts back in, and you're ready for a winch. On the JK, things get a little more complicated, but they make a similar product that does exactly the same thing for the JK. I haven't looked that closely into how to mount a winch on the JK yet, so I don't know a whole lot about it, but I did do some quick research, and I did see that that's an option. There's also one that sinks it inside of the frame rails, which is what I'm going to do when I build the bumper for the wife's JKU with the 12K winch on it, which again is just this bracket that you take off your bumper and you mount this thing, and it mounts sort of to the front plates on the bumper where the factory recovery points bolt in, where your stock bumper bolts do. And then you have the winch sunk into the frame. However, I don't think that's going to work with your stock plastic bumper. I think that Rubicon metal bumper, the 10A bumper, the 10th anniversary bumper, that incorporates a winch plate or a place for your fair lead, so that could work. But those are the simplest options that I've seen for the TJ and the JK. Okay, and the last question I have is from David O., also from Facebook. David and I are friends from a long, long time ago from an old message forum called Jeepaholics Anonymous. I've also talked about that on some previous videos. David lives a couple states away from me, probably like a day's drive, and he asks, when are you going to come out to the sand dunes with me? And I want to use this as an opportunity to say simply that once I get a truck and trailer, I definitely want to start making it a point to start traveling a bit more and wheeling some places where I don't generally get to wheel. I do a whole lot of wheeling at AOAA. In the past, I did a bunch of wheeling at Roush Creek, but what I can't do is depend on this thing to get me far away and back because I don't have a trailer. So what I want to do is once I get a truck and a trailer, which will probably happen in a year and a half to 2 years. There's a whole other story behind that. I do want to start moving around a little more and wheeling places that I've never seen before. I'd love to get far out west, too, places like Moab, maybe the Rubicon Trail. It's a bit off, a bit ways off. So once I get a truck and a trailer, I do want to start visiting other places, especially with the family. Just sort of take them out, see some cool things, get some wheeling in and scenery that's not identical to Pennsylvania wheeling like I've been doing for the entire time I've been wheeling. I have been to North Carolina at Uwharrie once. Beyond that, all the wheeling I've done has been right here in Pennsylvania, and I would like to see more of the country. So, I could make a whole other video on the situation that has put me on this timeline where it's going to be a year and a half away. That has all kinds of stuff to do with money and basically my financial history and whatnot. And it's not something that I think is suited for this video. I have been thinking about doing a video on sort of the financial side of this hobby. And if anybody's actually interested in hearing that, I've been hemming and hawing on it because it's not exactly a popular topic. I have some opinions, I have some experience that put me in the situation that I'm in now that is really limiting me, and I'm really working on digging my way out. But if anybody's really interested in hearing about that kind of thing, I would be happy to make a video if it would be beneficial to anybody. I don't want to make a video that's going to be kind of a downer because, you know, finances, nobody likes to talk about finances unless you do. Anyway, that's all the questions that I had. What was that, 5, 6 questions? Unless you count all 3 of Nikki G's. If you think I got anything wrong on the tech side of things, please let me know. And I can certainly, I'm open to discussion about what I got wrong, because I always like to know when I'm wrong. But otherwise, that's it. These are all the questions I received. If you guys like this video, please let me know. Hit the like button and comment. Let me know what you liked or didn't like about it, because it'll let me know if I should do this again. Because if you guys enjoy this, I'll absolutely do it more. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy answering questions. And I hope that comes through in most of my videos, especially this one. So, in the meantime, thanks for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And I will catch you on the next one. Hey you! You stuck around to the end of the video. You're awesome! You should probably hit the subscribe link up over here. And make sure you hit the notification bell. Otherwise, YouTube's not going to actually tell you when I produce something new. You can also support me via Patreon by clicking the link up over here. And if you like this video, you should probably check out the recommended content that's coming up down over here. If you want merch like I'm wearing right here, you should go to SWBCrawler.com and check out my shirts and hats and whatever else I've got for sale. Thanks for watching.